when we didn't do it live.
Oh.
So we were able to stop,
And
switch.
Then, yeah, it was a little different.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Natural Healers Network TV show. So glad you're with us today. We have a great show for you. We have two very special guests today. Our first guest is Maaliea Wilbur, and our second guest is Raylene Weaver. Both are licensed marriage and family therapists. And I'd like to start off by introducing our first guest, Maaliea Wilbur.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to have you here today and talk about your work and what you do. It's very exciting, and looking forward to this discussion.
Me as well.
So can you provide a little bit of introduction and background about yourself?
Absolutely. So, you know, early on, I didn't necessarily know I wanted to become a marriage and family therapist. I'd say going through college, I thought I was going to become a teacher. So I started off on a track with a degree in child and adolescent development, took a few psychology classes, and did a U-turn. So it was those classes that I think opened my eyes to the world of psychology, and quickly grabbed psychology as a major as well. So I ended up double majoring and went on through clinical psych master's program and went through the licensing process, and here I am. So a long journey, a good journey, and really excited to kind of be where I'm at now in private practice.
Okay, so you are in private practice. So tell us a little bit about your private practice. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So TherapyWorks of Los Gatos is the business I own. It's myself and a few other therapists that work there, which is great because we're able to serve quite a large population of people. We first opened, I'd say, the doors about 5 years ago, and it was right at the tail end of my internship, but had a great supervisor that allowed me to start opening up that world of kind of small business, and have really enjoyed the journey of that as well. I think I do have a little entrepreneurial spirit in me, because it does take a lot of work, but TherapyWorks is able to provide something for the community that I don't think a lot of smaller private practices are able to. What I mean by that is because we have multiple therapists on staff, we're able to see quite a range of people. And what I ultimately would love to be in Los Gatos, and we're striving to be, is kind of like this one-stop shop, or kind of the central hub for people to know about, where whether it's a child or a teen, a family member of sorts, a couple, that we're able to help and that we're able to get them in quickly, conveniently, and no matter what their concerns may be. So we've worked with a wide range of people, spanning from struggles with depression, anxiety, some of the more clinical stuff, as well as some of the bumps and grinds of daily life. So whether it's stress, whether it's parenting struggles, whether it's a divorce, or acting out teens, we're able to cover kind of the whole spectrum.
Yeah, so you have a real wide range of therapists and resources that you have available there.
Absolutely. As well as we really tried to go outside the box of just doing individual therapy sessions. So we do workshops and classes throughout the year. We're actually getting ready to host kind of an annual mixer we do in the summer to gain the community attention, as well as to get all the therapists and other networking folks we've met along the way to continue to let people know what we're doing and who we are.
Okay. What about some of the classes and workshops you guys offer? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. We're actually just getting probably ready to gear up in fall again, and those have really varied. Again, we try to service a wide population of people. So we've done things in the past where in the weekends we will offer, hour and a half long workshops for parents, for teens, for children on, again, varieties of issues. So whether it's communication, whether it's helping your teen with their drug or alcohol problem, again, we've really tried to listen, I guess, to the people we've either seen or the community as a whole to see what might be needed when we develop the groups and programs. We've also run support groups. We've done a parenting support group. We also run an adolescent substance abuse program. And so with that, it's an intensive program that offers teens and their families a little bit higher level of care than a once-a-week therapy session. These are for usually the students that are beyond that experimental stage of their use and are actually possibly heading up towards maybe needing to be removed from their home for treatment. So our goal is to actually work with the families and the teens to prevent that step from being needed. But the program also does work with families and kids transitioning out as well. So kids coming from a higher level of care, whether it's residential or wilderness, or some sort of 30-day or longer program, we're able to support those families and those teens and their recovery as they come out of that treatment program.
Okay, so your program is all outpatient. There's no residential portion of it, right?
Nope.
So they come on a daily basis and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes we'll see them up to 4 times a day. It includes usually individual therapy, family therapy. We do groups for the parents, groups for the teens. We can do screening for drugs and alcohol, as well as we encourage outside support meetings. So whether that looks like AA or Rational Recovery or some other outside community-based support.
Okay. And so do you have or enlist the support of other practitioners that you might need, psychiatrists?
Absolutely.
And other,
You know, we understand where our limits are as well. So if a psychiatric assessment is needed, if medications are needed, if there's any kind of other testing that might be kind of out of what our scope of practice is, we definitely love to refer. And we have quite a list of great people we've come in contact with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if someone wanted to get started with this work, whatever, maybe it's a teen wanting to work on substance abuse issues, maybe it's a couple wanting to work on relationship matters, whatever it may be. So how would they get started in this?
Sure. One of the things we encourage people to do is either give us a call or check out our website. Our website is full of information about kind of who we are, what we do, what we offer, as well as actually quite a lengthy resource list. So if people aren't quite ready to take that step to jump into an appointment, they're able to at least start to educate themselves. There's websites and books and all kinds of recommendations that people can start to invest a little bit of energy towards. My admin, Linda, is wonderful. She usually kind of makes it a soft welcome for people. We understand that it's already a hard enough process to make that first call or to take a step to take care of yourself. So we try to make it a warm welcome, and from that first phone call on towards their first appointment.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's circle back for a moment, because I want to go back to, you know, the reason that you got into this business, and I want to know what really prompted you to get into this. I mean, what did you have a calling to help people? What was it?
I think I always enjoyed that helping concept. I think that's always been my personality. It's always been a little bit of me. Always thought I'd end up a teacher, and I think that's given back. I always enjoyed kids and teens. But you know, finding a way to help people make change in their life and create happiness again in their life, or remove roadblocks from their lives. It is such a neat process to go along, you know, for the ride. It's been really wonderful. I work with a lot of teenagers in my caseload, and to watch some of these teens change the direction of their lives at this very pivotal time, it's just one of the coolest experiences ever. So I think I've learned to even love it more as I've gotten into the career than I even thought I ever would, which is really neat.
That really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rewarding. Hard, but rewarding.
Yes, it is very challenging work, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask, is about your specific focus in your own practice. So do you work mostly with teens? What is your...
So I have the juggling act. I've got a little bit of the business end of things that I have to manage, and then I also have my caseload, which I do work with a lot of teens. I find them very fun, but very challenging. And again, I love that pivotal time we have to work with them, usually before some lifelong patterns might start. But again, I have a varied practice as well. So I have a few couples on my caseload. I have a few kids, but teens are kind of where my heart is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the type of therapy that you do? Can you kind of help people understand what that might be?
Absolutely. Again, the neat thing that our clinic is able to do, because we have various therapists, is to really offer the community not just a single type. Myself personally, I work with a lot of kind of solution-focused thinking. So where these people are and where we're trying to get, and trying to remove the roadblocks in between. In addition to that, there's a lot of what's known as cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a lot of research to back that, and it's about managing your thoughts and changing your behaviors and how you're feeling, and that is very successful with a lot of people. But again, with the therapists we have, everyone's got their own style and their own twist, which I love, and I love to be able to match the clients coming in with the therapist who may be that best fit for them. And we usually do talk about that with our clients as well. We want to make sure it's working for them, and if it's not working for them, it's not working. Right. So it's an open dialogue usually to make sure we find them that best fit. Yeah,
making sure that they're getting their needs met and everything that they need and so forth.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to what you said about solution-focused therapy, because I'm curious, and I think the viewers would really be interested to learn more about that. Yeah. So just talk a little bit more, maybe a little bit more in depth about what solution-focused therapy is. Sure.
So I think, the best way to describe what solution-focused therapy is to help people look at, in the moment, maybe what their goals are. And where they would like to be and how they would like to get there. kind of what it sounds like, the solution focus. It's not so much on digging in the past. It's not so much about dissecting, again, the history of what might have been part of their lives. Obviously, we can't ignore those things, but there's a lot of focus on the future. There's a lot of kind of deciding, despite where they've been, despite what they've gone through, where they will head, and focusing there instead of on, some of the things that they might have gone through or struggled with.
Yeah, and I find that particular mode of therapy is extremely effective with couples if you can get them to really follow that right?
It's tough. I think it is hard to, just because we think it might work great, to have our couples or our clients in general receive it well. So sometimes that's a learning curve, and again, I'm always willing to mold with my clients. Not always what I think is going to work is going to work. It's just not.
Right.
So it's molding with them and hearing them out. What are they needing? And if it's not immediate solution-focused work, where else do we need to start?
Okay. And so maybe a little bit more about, what your success, the successes that you see and the people that you see thriving. I mean, talk a little bit more about those
when you ask me
stories.
that, the one thing that comes to mind is I have had a few clients that are long-term clients. And that is, part of me sometimes gets on that track of like, am I helping them? Should they be gone by now? And the other part of me fights that with, no, there's something that's keeping them coming. And it usually is that things are changing in their lives for the better. And that's really heartwarming to realize that. The other thing that I've really found successful, and again, that kind of needed pat on the back as a therapist, we sometimes question, the effectiveness of what we're doing every hour when we see these people. And I think having referrals come from some of my caseload that I've seen in the past is always another one of those reminders that I'm making a difference for these people and that I am helping them in a way that is beneficial in their lives. So having either them come back around a year later, a couple months later and say, hey, we need another tune-up, or whether they're referring their loved ones or family and friends, it's very heartwarming.
Yes, so you get their trust and support and referring people that they know, and that's what I was going to ask too, is about the clients that you see. Where do they typically come from? Are they mostly referrals from other clients?
I would say the majority of our practice is coming from referring clients. So clients we've either worked with or family and friends that we know referring loved ones in. And I think, in general, what we do is such a personalized and emotional job. And it's a personal touch. People want to trust you. People want to know you. They want to know your intentions. They're going to tell you their stories and the good and the bad. And that's tough, right? So to have them trust and to come from a trusted source, I think makes a big difference for a lot of people.
Yes, it does. And just them getting a chance to meet you and see who you are is very important to a lot of clients, I think.
One of the things we do love to provide our clients, anybody kind of coming through the door, making that first phone call or that click on our website, is a free consultation. And so that makes people sometimes immediately rest at ease. They don't feel locked into anything. They don't feel like they have to commit to this long-term process. They can come in, meet myself or one of the therapists at the office, get the vibe of the office, get the vibe of the therapist, and see if it's a good fit or not.
And I think that's really important. And a lot of therapists, or some therapists, don't do that. So it's I think it's a good idea that you do that, so they can get their feet wet and understand what it's about and really know who you are.
Yeah, again, that relationship is so important.
Yes.
So if that relationship isn't the right fit and it's not working very well, the therapy in general, I don't think will work very well.
Yes, exactly. So we have maybe a minute or so left. I'm just curious, do you have anything else that you'd like to share about the practice and your work?
Yeah. I think one of the things that might still stand out to me is what we'd like to give back to the community. So we offer quite a lot of community outreach, I guess you would call it, where we either go into small businesses, we go into PTA meetings with school and staff, we'll go into just about anywhere and provide any kind of education around topics around mental health, behavioral health, any of the above. And that's something that I think, we do it free of charge. It's great for us to be able to give back to the community in that way. We've had schools that we've provided, kind of short seminars for. We've had workplaces we've provided these for. And they've ranged anywhere from, again, managing teen behavior to managing stress within the workplace, and that's something that, again, not every therapist will go out there and provide, but we really enjoy giving that back to the community.
Yes. Well, Maaliea, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, learning about your practice, and I know that our viewers, have gotten a lot out of this. So hopefully they're going to call. So make sure if you have an issue that you need work on, call Maaliea.
Give us a call. We're here.
Give them a call.
Thanks so much.
You're quite welcome. So we'll be right back with Maaliea Wilbur, also licensed marriage and family therapist, in just a few moments. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to the Natural Healers Network TV show. Our next guest is Maaliea Wilbur, licensed marriage and family therapist. Welcome, Maaliea. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate you being here, and it's an honor to speak to you and get to know more about your practice, and I'm sure it's going to be great for our viewers as well. So can you tell us how you got into the field of marriage and family therapy?
Well, actually, it was many years ago when I was in therapy myself. I was going through a divorce and going through a lot of changes, and I remember going into my therapist and saying, I think that I'd like to leave the corporate world and go back into the world of education. I'd like to be a counselor. I have a teaching credential, and I just kind of wanted to get back to working with kids. And we talked about it a little bit, and she said, well, have you ever thought about becoming a therapist? And I was like, no. And she said, I think you'd love it. And so that kind of got the dialogue started, and I started researching it, and lo and behold, I went through the program, and here I am. And I work part-time in private practice, and then I also work part-time with middle school kids. So that part of my vision came true. I really like working with kids.
Okay, great. So what was the draw? I mean, what got you, hooked into it?
I think maybe partly the experience that I was going through myself. I was going through some difficult times, and I think I read every self-help book on the shelf, so I started doing a lot of my own, depth work and really looking at what was going on. And then with therapy, I think that really helped.
Okay. And then what do you find the most rewarding in this work?
Well, I think what's really rewarding for me is when I see progress after working with a client for a while. When we've done some family history and we've looked at relationship patterns and trying to find out, where the next move is, and seeing a shift, seeing that the client is actually putting some pieces together and they're finding that, whoa, that was not working for me. I really need to do something different here. And understanding why they were doing what they were doing can really help them to make a shift and make a change. So I find that very rewarding. I also find it really rewarding, especially working with men, when they start using emotional intelligence. When a man becomes comfortable enough in his own skin and his own feelings and his own emotions so that he can manage that, and so that he can also become more empathetic with others. So I find that very rewarding.
Yes. And for men, a lot of us, it's not quite that easy to do that, right? And
No.
we weren't taught, a lot of us weren't taught how to do that. So having someone to guide us in that process is an incredible gift.
Yeah, I really, it's very rewarding, so
Yes.
I really like it.
Now, what about in your practice? Do you have a specialty area in your work?
Actually, I do. It's men's issues. And this has been a topic that I've been interested in for a long time. I actually did my master's thesis on how repressed emotions in men negatively affect society. So when you have a society that, like you said, doesn't always make it so easy for men to express their emotions or their feelings, well, then they can either internalize those feelings and become depressed, or they can self-medicate with alcohol or drugs, or they can externalize those feelings and, push their negative feelings onto others. So I think really helping men to know that it's okay to have your feelings, to be integrated, I think that's real exciting for me.
That is very exciting. Yes, we need that. All of us do, but men in particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I understand that you are starting a support group for men who are in divorce or going through the process of divorce.
I definitely would like to do that. Like I said, I myself have gone through a divorce, so I know how emotionally and financially draining that whole process is. And you just literally have to start over. So here again, it's hard to get men together. It's hard to get that critical mass. But I really think that a man knowing that he's not the only one going through this, that others are going through it, and that there is some support and there are some different paths that you can take, I would love to get that group going.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is critically important for men because men tend to get isolated and don't have the emotional support, and so offering a group like this would be just fantastic, especially in going through a divorce or a difficult circumstance like that. So I really applaud you, and I hope that that goes well for you.
Great, thank you. I was also going to say, Steve, that I thought of another example of how society doesn't always make it easy or kind of make it available for men to get help. I recently went in for my annual physical exam. I do that every year. And so when I go in, I go to a women's clinic. And they don't have a men's clinic. They have a women's clinic, but they don't have a men's clinic. And they have a questionnaire that I fill out, and it just asks about, my physical health throughout the past year and any changes or whatnot. And one of the questions on that questionnaire is, do you feel safe in your home? Have you ever experienced physical, sexual, or emotional abuse? And I'm so glad that question is there. I mean, it's very important, obviously, for women to have support and to have those resources. But I think that also for men, there should be something like that, because I really think that it's underreported when abuse occurs against a man. And no one really asks that. I asked my husband, I said, does your doctor talk to you about this? And he said, no, it's never come up. So here again, it's just kind of one of those hidden things where I think for men, there can be a lot of shame, saying that they need help or feeling that they might be judged or whatever. So,
yes. Yeah, generally speaking, it's much more difficult for them to come forward and seek help, and for myself too. I've come a long way with that, and I've had to work at just being open to help, being open to that kind of support, and so yeah.
Right.
Now, what about the clients that come to see you? What kind of help are they really looking for, most of your clients?
Generally it's relational issues. It's either a person has gone through a bad breakup, or they're in a relationship that's not working, or maybe they're considering divorce. So it's generally relational issues that come up. It can also be relational issues between an adult and an aging parent, or an adult and a teenager. So that's usually those people find me.
Okay. And in terms of people who have influenced you in your work, what other therapists have been an influence for you?
Here again, long ago when I was going through my own work and trying to look at my own relationship patterns and my family history, I came upon the work of Harville Hendricks. And if you go to my website, it's Raylene's reading list. He's listed there, but he's written many books, and he has workshops, and he trains therapists to work in his model. But it's really looking at family history, relationship patterns, and how we all unconsciously are trying to get our emotional needs met through our partner that we didn't get met through our parents. So that's just kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So when I started doing going through his books and workbooks, it really helped me. I mean, it dramatically, I could really see something in black and white, like, oh my God. And so I think his work is really good.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I've seen him speak, and I've read some of his books too, and I find it fascinating and a great model to use. The Imago Therapy,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting idea that we are, seeking to heal ourselves through our partners, and so forth, and we often attract people who are much like our parents.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating that usually the person that we're attracted to, they've been wounded in the same way that we have, but they have coped or adapted in a different way than we have. So it can be complementary, or it can be challenging, because it gets us out of our comfort zone.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the myths that exist for people considering therapy?
Well, you know, I've thought about this, and especially working with teenagers a lot. I think it can be hard for young people and adults, but I think there's a little bit of a feeling that, gee, you know, I must be crazy, you know, there must be something really wrong with me, or really crazy, or I'm weak, like we were talking about. You know, I can't figure it out on my own, or, you know, I can't make a change here. So I think those are two myths that definitely I think of. I also think of sort of maybe the old-fashioned style of going in and laying on the therapist's couch and not really looking at the therapist or interacting with the therapist. I think maybe some people feel that it's kind of cold and clinical, and I think that as we've discussed, there are lots of different approaches that can be very relational and very warm and connected.
So that's what I was going to ask, is about your style of therapy, the way you work. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about that?
I think basically it is relational and humanistic. So it's...
And they may not know what that means, so you're going to have to
it's kind
describe
of like
that a little bit.
Unconditional positive regard is that you meet the client where they're at. You're on their side. You're trying to learn about them and help them. I really like the idea of helping someone to help themselves. That's really, if that happens, then you've got gold, because they've discovered what's going on themselves. So
humanistic, believing in them as a human being, relating to them as a human being. And then what about the relational part? Is there's something that you can add about that?
Therapy is unique. It really is a very unique situation in that, we meet with a client for 50 or 60 minutes a week. We can, work with them for a year, 2 years, or it can be short-term therapy. But if it's longer-term therapy, you develop a closeness, a relationship with that client. Now, it's very professional, and there are strong boundaries, and we don't go out and have a beer afterwards. I mean, it doesn't work that way. But the time that you spend with a client is very personal. I mean, that's their space, their time. In their lives, there may not be anyone else that listens to them, that sees them the way that we do. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, sometimes they may be telling you things that they don't tell anyone else. Absolutely. Right? It's that intimate, that kind of close relationship, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we have maybe about a minute left. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers to let them know anything more about yourself, your practice?
Well, I was thinking maybe just a couple of things that I have seen change in the area of working with men that we talked a little bit about, is that I think with gender roles, we are seeing in some cases where maybe the man is staying home and taking care of the kids, and it's the wife that's off, to kind of right. climbing the corporate ladder or whatever. And I like that there has been some shift, some couples are able to do that. And then again, I think the shift towards emotional intelligence, that intellectual intelligence is great, and strength and brawn is great, but integrating the emotional intelligence, I'm glad we're seeing more of that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Raylene, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure learning about you and your work, and I know it's been valuable for all the viewers as well. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it.
And that's all our show for today for the Natural Healers Network TV. Be sure and tune in to us next time. Thanks again.